Okay, so for this, all we really need is the GTF file. There are R packages like BioMart that can map Ensembl IDs, but honestly, doing it this way is going to be pretty easy and it gives you more control and it doesn't require you learning how to use a new module or package. So if we look at some dseq results we had from earlier, see we have the Ensembl IDs. And then let me just show you what we're going to be using the GTF file for. So if we grep this Ensembl ID from the GTF file, and let's just pass it to less, you see that the GTF file has the gene ID, which we just searched, and then it also has the gene name, which is what we want. So it's really easy just to write a simple script to parse the GTF file and make a dictionary of the Ensembl IDs and of the gene names. So to do this, I'm going to use Python. You could do something very similar in R, but I find Python easier to work with when doing things like this. And I'll just do it in Jupyter Notebook, so it's easier. Okay, so first, let's just take a peek at the first couple of lines in the GTF file. Let's not do all 10, let's just do like 8. We see the first couple of lines we don't need, so let's just open this up. As F, and then we'll just name it GTF, and we'll list the handle. And then we don't want these lines, so let's do GTF equals x for x GTF if not x dot starts with hashtag. Okay, so if we look at the GTF length, there's a lot. 3 million entries. That's because every gene has multiple entries. There's different isoforms, etc. Okay, so if we look at GTF, we see that it's just a list where every item in the list is one line in the GTF file. So all we want to do is split each of these lines and only keep this, the Ensembl ID, and then the gene name, or this part right here. So first, let's filter out all the lines that don't have gene ID and gene name, so we don't get errors when we try to map against the whole GTF list. So we'll just do GTF equals x for x and GTF if, and we'll just copy this here. So if this is an x, and then we'll copy gene name here, and gene name is an x. So we're saying we only want the lines that have gene ID and gene name. Alright, so let's look at GTF now. So it only got rid of 200,000 out of 3 million lines. Okay, so let's actually split these lines up. So let's just use GTF 0 as an example. So we're going to map over the whole GTF list, and we're going to return a tuple. Okay, so the tuple, we want two items, right? We want the Ensembl ID and the gene name. And so we can split it, x.split, and we're actually just going to use this here. We're going to split on this. And split, if you don't know, just turns the item into a list using this as a delimiter. So this would end up being a list of two items, this and this. And since we don't care about this, we're just going to say, give me the second part. So now we only have this, and then what we can do is split it on this quotation here again. And this time we're just going to split on one quotation mark, and then we're going to return the first item. So because now we're splitting right here, and we have two items, this and this, we only want the first item. Okay, so now this would return only this. And then let's just do the same exact thing. We're just going to copy this, and we're going to replace gene ID with gene name. So it's going to do the same exact thing we did for this, except now it's going to split on gene name, and then it's going to split on the first quotation mark, and we're going to get just the gene name. And of course we have to wrap this in list, and we'll just resave it as GTF. Let's just look at the first 5 entries. And you see, like I mentioned earlier, since there are multiple isoforms and entries in the GTF, we're going to have duplicates. And this is precisely why I wrapped it as a tuple and not as a list of lists, because we can just say GTF equals list set GTF. Sorry, let me add a couple lines there. So this is just giving us unique elements from this list. And what was the length of GTF? I think it's still the same as that. Yeah, 3 million. And then after this, it's only 40,000. If we look at it, now we just have a list of tuples with the Ensembl ID and the gene ID. So if you wanted to use this in R, what I would do is just save this as a text file, and then you can open it up in R if you want to use it in R. But we have our dseq results, so let me just show it as an example in Python. I'm just going to use pandas to open our dseq results. And then let's turn GTF into a dictionary instead of just a list of tuples, which is super simple. Just say GTF equals dictionary GTF. And then we can just do a new column. We'll just say gene name and set that equal to df dot unnamed 0. We could change the name of this, but there's no point really. I'm just gonna leave it as that. Dot map GTF. And now if we look at df, we now have a mapped gene name for every row.